Okay, Nikki, thanks for the introduction. Hello everyone. My name's Ashley Barrett, and I'm going to talk about career transition and mental health. Apologies for the caps. I'm not shouting at you, but this is what I'm going to be talking about today. So I thought I would do some introductions and thank yous at the same time. So that's a picture of me, and I work for Vantage Data Centers as an analyst. Thank you to them for giving me the day off today to come and speak. Thanks to DTX for providing this wonderful stage and a lounge, which I'm going to go and test out later on. Big thanks to Caps Lock. I can see Jenny's here. Give us a wave, Jenny, from Caps Lock. And they've got a stand somewhere as well, so go and find them. But big thanks to them. They're a big part of the change and reskilling and training that I went through. And big thanks to the beer farmers for giving me the opportunity to speak today and for setting all of this up and making sure my microphone works. So what am I going to talk about today? So I'm going to be speaking about career change and the career change that I've made. I'm going to be speaking about mental health, a huge issue at the moment. It was World Mental Health Day on Monday, I believe. So that's going to be part of what I talk about. I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that I faced, some of the lessons that I learnt, and also what you can do as people in the industry today to help people change careers. So as you can see here, I used to be a teacher. So I was a teacher for about 13 years in the UK and other countries around the world. And then I decided to change career and became a cybersecurity analyst. So that was it. I can walk away, my talk's done, I changed career, that was it. Well, this slide might be a bit misleading. Obviously, some of you have spotted that I've misspelled cybersecurity. That's because I work for an American company. I think that's how they spell it over there. But also, that arrow doesn't really represent the struggles and challenges and difficulties that I faced in changing career. So, my actual journey was a bit more like this. And now that I look at this slide, I realise that it might also be a bit misleading because it looks like I'm a character from Doctor Who. So I changed into a bucket of water, then a cartoon character, then I morphed into a dog, and then I morphed into a girl, and then went along this whole journey. But why have I put this here? I wanted to maybe just move out of the way a little bit. So just put some of the things on here that helped me in my journey to change career. I'm going to be using a few analogies to talk today, so they're going to see this bucket of water quite a lot. This is my dog Dennis, or Dennis Bergkamp is his full name, and that's my partner Sarah. She's watching online. She bugged me to put a picture of her in the slides. And then obviously you can see caps lock, studying, talking to people. That isn't me, it's just someone that looks a bit like me who's going for an interview, that's why I put that there. A bucket of water again, which I'll come back to, my new employer, and then the beer farmers. So that's kind of a bit of an overview of the journey that I've been on in changing career. So what motivated me to talk to everyone today? Well, this used to be me. I think it still is me. I used to be a teacher, like I mentioned before, and this bucket of water represents my sort of stress bucket and the bucket that we all have. And we put all of our little stresses into it, or they go into it without us choosing to. And my stress bucket was overflowing when I was a teacher. I was stressed, I was tired, I was working long hours, I was in this sort of downward spiral where things that should take me 15 minutes were taking me hours to do, and that meant I had even less free time to do the things that I enjoyed. And I was burnt out. I wasn't making time for the things that helped me lessen my stress levels. So this is a bit of a messy analogy, but let me try and mop it up a little bit. So we've all got our stress bucket, and we have our stresses that go into the bucket, and that stress level goes up and up and up and up. And if you don't have things to help you release the stress level or let out some water from your bucket, you eventually overflow. And that's what happened to me. And I knew something had to change, so I wanted to change careers. I wanted to find something different. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Also, the statistics around mental health, that's something that really motivated me to talk with everyone today with the beer farmers. So I won't read through all of these, but I'll just put them on here for now. But these statistics for me are staggering. But the more that I spoke to people, actually they weren't that surprising. So if we just look around us now in this little area or the exhibition, 1 in 4 people, so 1 out of every 4 people is going to struggle with some sort of mental health issue in their life each year. At any one time, 1 in 6 people might have symptoms of mental health or ill mental health. And then this was the one that really stood out to me. So 77 to 75% of people with a diagnosed mental health illness receive no treatment at all. So what does that mean? It means that many people are struggling with their mental health. It also means 3/4 of people don't receive any treatment. So that puts a lot of onus on us to help ourselves and to help the people around us. What else motivated me to talk today? Well, when I wanted to change career, I started talking to people. So I found out a lot of my friends and family had struggled with mental health, but also had wanted to change careers as well. So some statistics about people wanting to change careers. 40% of people surveyed planned to change career within 2 years. 23% planned to change within 1 year. And I thought this was quite interesting. The average UK worker considers changing career 10 times a year. Well, for me, I actually considered changing 10 times a day probably when I was a teacher. And I can talk about it now, but like even on the way to work sometimes, I just thought, you know what? When I was crossing the road, if I just get a little bit run over, then I won't have to go to work today. And that's like a funny thing to think about, but also a little bit scary. Like I was like, well, I'll just get a little bit hurt and I won't have to go in. And that's because I really didn't enjoy what I was doing. And that, from these figures, seems like it is actually true for a lot of people. And then I don't think this was actually that surprising, but 96% of graduates surveyed have switched careers by the age of 24. I mean, when you finish school at 16 or college at 18, you don't have a clue what you want to be when you grow up or when you're older, or what you want to do in your work life. So the fact that people are changing careers that early isn't surprising, but now it's not really a life choice what you choose to do as a job. It might be something that changes over time. So what do they tell us and how do we interpret them? Well, as I was just saying, so a significant portion of people want to change careers. Those thoughts about changing careers are very persistent. They could be daily, weekly, monthly. And once you're in a career, it's not a for life choice. Now, for me, this brings up a question. We should be having a wider conversation about what really defines us and what motivates us. So what does really define us as people and drive what we choose to focus on in our working lives? Now, these pictures might seem a bit random, but stay with me here, okay? So there's so many things happening in the world at the moment which make it feel like we're in some sort of dystopian future. So we've got like Ukraine, wars happening. Like I used to live in Thailand, and seeing like the mass shootings and things over there is really worrying. We've got like people in the UK, which is supposedly the developed world, eating from food banks, and then we've got Dumb and Dumber like cutting taxes for people who are the highest earners, which is bonkers. And then we've got America. Like it's just absolutely mental. And so all of these like stresses add to all of our buckets. But the last time I checked, we weren't living in some sort of dystopian future where when you're born, you come out of the womb or leave the hospital with a barcode on it which says what you're going to do in your career. You don't leave the house when you're 1 year old in a suit, right? I'm going to work in a bank, or I'm going to work in cybersecurity, or I'm going to work in a school. So these things on the left here, for me, are what really define us. So your experiences in life, your family, school, whether you loved it, whether you hated it, family, whether you love them or whether you hate them, and then all of our talents. So for me, these are the things that really define us, not what somebody else thinks that you should do or what society thinks you should do. So just to kind of reiterate this, our identity is rooted in the values, talents, experiences that we have, and it's not rooted in a job. So our identity is not rooted in one single role. And that kind of brings me back to this. Just because I am not a teacher anymore, now I work in cybersecurity, I haven't metamorphosed into somebody else. I'm still the same person. I've still got the same values. I've still got the same experiences. So for anyone else that's looking to change roles or change jobs, you don't have to change everything about yourself. You're still you. You've still got your talents. You've still got your transferable skills that you're going to take with you. So hopefully if anyone is thinking about changing career, that might lessen the burden a little bit. You don't need to have some sort of, what's a good analogy, some sort of like moth into a butterfly or whatever it would be. You're still you. There's only a few tweaks that you might need to make. So what are some of the challenges and stresses when people are changing career? Well, I talked to lots and lots of people when I was going through my career transition, and I bugged them with surveys. I asked them for interviews. I think Jenny might have filled out one of my Google forms, and I wanted to find out what were the challenges and stresses that everyone else faced while they were changing careers. So I spoke to as many people as possible and asked them about their stress bucket and what was filling it up. So one of the first things was accepting that a change is right. That's really stressful. Just being able to say, you know what, actually, this thing that I've dedicated my life to isn't right for me. And that's stressful in itself, having to make that decision. Learning new skills, having to upskill or reskill is really difficult. Putting yourself out there and starting again. Job hunting. I don't know if anyone in this area here has been searching for a job recently, but it's really hard. And then also learning new skills while you're job hunting as well can be even harder. Interviewing. This was probably the thing that people spoke to me about most. It's such a roller coaster of emotions. Like, you get yourself hyped up and geared up for an interview. You think it might have gone well, or maybe it went terribly, but then you have this big down afterwards. And just riding that roller coaster, for me and a lot of the people I spoke to, was a real challenge, and again added to that stress bucket. And then imposter syndrome. You're trying to prove to other people that you are this new person, effectively. You're not changing yourself, but you're trying to tell them that you've learned all these new skills. And believing in that yourself can be tricky. So hopefully I haven't put anyone off changing careers. And now I'm going to talk a bit about how we manage our stress levels and make sure the bucket isn't overflowing. So managing stresses. These are the things that have worked for me. They might not work for everyone, but they really helped me manage my bucket. So talking to people was huge for me, as I've said before. Talking to friends, talking to family, talking to people on the street, talking to people at Caps Lock about my experiences and what they'd done, and connecting with people on LinkedIn, trying to find what they'd done to change careers and see what their roadmap was. Finding a coach. I think often we have all of the solutions to the things that we're worried about ourselves. But if you find a coach, they're not going to tell you the right answers. They're just going to ask you the right questions that help you answer those questions yourself. And we've actually got those answers inside us. We just need somebody else to help us realize that. So I had a brilliant coach at, how many times have I said Caps Lock now, Jenny? If I say it more than 10 times, I'll buy you a beer. So I had a brilliant coach there called Christina. She was amazing for me and really, really helped. Getting outside. So I was also really lucky. I had the chance to work with a charity called Nature Therapy. Dose of Nature. And they paired me with a volunteer. And it isn't like walking around with your shoes off in a forest. It does sound a bit like that. But literally all it was, 1 hour a week, outside with a volunteer who didn't have any sort of psychological training, and we literally just talked about anything, and we spent the time outside. And being outside really made a huge difference to me. I looked forward to that 1 hour all week, and that was huge. And then obviously exercising when you can. You don't need to be Bradley Wiggins or Mo Farah, but just getting outside, moving, and taking your mind off all of those stresses in the bucket. And then what were some of the other things that people told me about that worked for them? So how did they maintain their mental health while career change? Building routines and sticking to them, setting achievable goals was really important. Creating space and time to actually relax. There's so often in our working lives, we're always looking for that next thing to do. Let me just send that email. Let me just log into this quick call. I don't need to say anything, I'll just put it on in the background. But if you're doing that, you're not giving yourself time out to actually take a step back, let the release valve on that bucket down, just don't think about anything. And then this really hit home for me. I wasn't sure what this person meant at first when they told me this, but I thought this was really important. So segregating parts of your life. This person was going through a career change, and they were job hunting, going to interviews, applying for jobs, and a lot of that was rejection. So they said that they segregated parts of their life. Just because they weren't necessarily a successful job seeker at that time, it didn't mean they couldn't be a successful learner. It didn't mean they couldn't be a successful friend. It didn't mean they couldn't be a successful sibling. And it didn't mean that they couldn't be a successful partner. So that's how they kind of upkept their sort of self-esteem, by focusing on not just one part of their life, all parts of their life, and feeling successful at all of those other aspects while they were being a job seeker. So, to summarize, how do we keep our bucket of stresses at a manageable level? So this is what me and the group of people I spoke to thought. Get outside, talk to people, create time to actually relax, and then remember that there are many ways to be successful. So, what can you do to help? What can you do to help people navigate this career change but also manage their stresses at the same time? So share your experiences with other people, the good and the bad. Share when you're feeling great, share when you're feeling bad, share when you've had difficult times, because just hearing that, for somebody who's struggling or has struggled, hearing that other people have gone through similar difficulties can make all the difference. What else can you do to help? Build your network, but also welcome career changes to your network. I was really lucky. There's people here today that welcomed me to their network. Nikki, Rosie, who was speaking yesterday, the beer farmers, they welcomed me as a career changer to their network. And that really helped me feel accepted and helped boost my confidence. And then lastly, if you are somebody who's changed career, what is it that you're going to do once you've crossed that river? What are you going to do to send the raft back over so somebody else can make the same journey? So that's me, Ashley Barrett, cybersecurity analyst, and then still managing my buckets of stress. And yeah, any questions? Okay, cool. All right, thank you.